The typhoon pictures here before and after. These are satellite images showing the devastation to the Philippine city of Tacloban. Now, ground zero for the storm here, where more than 2,000 are feared dead. The numbers, they may continue to go up here. Residents being urged to leave because there was no food, no water, hygiene, all from what may be the strongest storm ever to make landfall in all of recorded history. The stories, the pictures, and the hard-to-fathom death toll in the Philippines, getting some to wonder once again about climate change and some new normals. This all conversation, you remember, took place a little over a year ago when we had Sandy make landfall here, and before that Katrina, when forecasters say even stronger storms may be part of our future, the frequency and again the scope of them. But that's when we are reminded Americans don't agree on climate change, right? Well, the answer isn't that simple. There is a Stanford University survey that sampled people's beliefs on climate change, and they went to all 50 states. And guess what? Americans in the red and blue states believe that climate change is not only very real, they believe it everywhere, to the tune of 70% as a minimum or more, and in some parts of this country in excess of 90%. Think about how many times Americans agree on anything to that level. Americans also believe that humans, the major cause of climate change, and they believe that everywhere, again, 70% or more, everywhere, that we have to do something about it. Americans are willing to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from power plants to combat climate change. Also, an everywhere belief, with no less than 60% supporting that belief. And the U.S. should take action to stop climate change no matter what other nations do. Again, a universal American belief here with majority support in every single state. I always come at this position from somebody who is not somebody who spent my life hugging trees or is a huge environmentalist, but I think of it in more basic terms. I got 3 kids, 11 and younger. What's it going to be like for them in 30, 40, 50 years? Everything I read, and I've become a voracious consumer of this information, food supplies, overpopulation, coupled with the fact here of the rising water levels and the non-arable land here to grow stuff as things continue to change. It doesn't add up in any equation that this will all take care of itself. And the loonies on the Hill who said, oh, it's just some science fiction thing, this is all cyclical, I don't hear them saying that anymore. But the hardest thing to do is, what do you do about it? Because solutions cost money. And when money's tight, this is the thing that people say, let's put it off.
Two things have to happen. Republicans have to acknowledge that it is a problem caused by mankind, and there are things we need to do. The Democrats need to do the things that will make a difference that don't cost as much. Sometimes environmentalists not only want 80% of the problems solved spending 20%, they want that last 20% spending 80%. Let's get at the things that really make a difference.
Do you have a start where we can start?
Well, you know, I can tell you where you don't do. You don't worry, and it's a little bit on a different issue, you don't worry about a few bugs crossing the street, because then the environmental movement loses its credibility. Yeah, you need to, I think that you need to get to natural gas and move away from our dependency on coal. It's cleaner and consumes less. And then you need to take some of those revenues and say, we've got a lot of extra revenues now from taxes on natural gas because it's domestic, and we're going to plow it into solar, all the renewables. So the environmental community gets what it wants, frankly, those of us who want manufacturing to still exist in this country get what we want.
The harder part, though, always comes from, do we as a nation want to move more towards like a major infrastructure expenditures in terms of putting charging stations everywhere for electric cars?
Yes.
Do we want to have carbon tax emissions?
Yes.
And make it more difficult for people who do that? Do we want to have salinization places so that in terms of water, one of the things they all say is, you think it's a problem now. Southwest in this country, you're going to have fights over water, because it's not that easy anymore. You just look at where water levels were and where they are right now. We got to figure out a way that we'll have a major water source. Forget about the rest of the world for a moment. Just in the contiguous
You got to have
U.S.
manufacturing come back to the Northeast.
Yeah.
You can't have everybody continually move. So there at least needs to be an honest dialogue. You're going to move in 10 or 20 years, you're going to have a big problem.
I think the most obvious thing for us is to try to move away from the fossil fuel, like oil, where we consume 30% of the world's oil. You know, right here in New York State, we're talking about fracking. I think that's something that's going to be very important in the 2014 election with Governor Cuomo. And that's a more clean, that's clean, I mean, it's controversial, but it provides jobs upstate.
I would say, you know who deserves a gold star, Dominic, is Andrew right
so.
now, because he would like to both come across the table with both the congressman and go after Richard here, because his
I'm trying to concede my time to him on the environmental issue.
But you know the problem is Andrew's got an IFB like me, and he knows that we have to wrap.
He's
So
on the program every day.
He's beat red.
he is not in agreement on fracking.
Oh, he's wrong.
There we go.
You got to get it.
I
I'm
love
fine.
this guy
I'm fine.
over
We'll
here.
lose 30 seconds. The other side. Go ahead.
Same issue with all of these other issues that we're talking about with green energy. Follow the money. That's where the opposition to what's clean and the opposition to climate change, science and research is coming from. Follow the money. I just don't trust environmental data that comes from the people who stand to benefit from trashing the environment.
Doesn't it seem like
That
for the
applies to
first time,
fracking
Andrew,
as
in
well as
our
it applies to other
lifetimes,
things.
the debates that we've had to go back and forth, people accept it. The numbers just proved it. It's not that we have to fight anymore whether or not global warming is some concocted hoax. People believe it.
You know,
They're worried
90%
about
of Americans support background checks too. It's not about convincing the public necessarily. It's about convincing
I
lawmakers.
think he makes a good point. He gets the last word too. When we come back here, I can't wait to hear what the congressman has to say on that. Being in Congress is not all glitz and glamour. A new show's out on Amazon which asks what happens when 4 lawmakers have to live under the same roof. Well, it turns out this isn't some left coast imagination. This is the reality, as Mr. Shays will well tell us here, about people that have to basically pool money here because they don't have enough scratch here to get their own place. We'll get the inside scoop on what life in Washington is really like for some lawmakers. Yes. Another tease, though, that I do. First, though, what a wonderful world. The Cassini space probe on its mission to the planet Saturn, these are real pictures, not produced in Photoshop, recently turned around and took a family photo of the solar system. If you look carefully, you can even find us.